Good morning. I'm Erin, Lyttle from the class of 1998. That's really hard to believe, but it's true. I was supposed to be driving my daughter and her classmates to the crafts fair right now, but the rain had different plans for the day. Fortunately, as all St. Mary's girls do, I started my day ready for anything. So now I'm very honored and ready to be here to introduce my dear friend and classmate from the class of 98, Meggan Wurzburg Kiel. You will quickly see that Meggan has always been ready for anything as well. In fact, I believe it was in elementary school, I picked out a fabulous birthday present for Meggan. It was a nightgown. It was huge nightgown. It was perfect, right? It was way too big at the time, but I guess I was giving her a tool to be ready for bed for the rest of her life. But, right, Meggan? Okay. But now on to the details. Meggan has a wonderful history in the educational field, serving as the college counselor for the Soulsville Charter School and Memphis Prep program, and as assistant director of admission at Rhodes College. So she would be a wonderful resource if any of you upper school girls have questions or need some advice about college admissions. Meggan has a bachelor's from Duke in French and European Studies and a Master of Education from the University of Massachusetts in elementary education. At St. Mary's, she was our Tatler editor and student council vice president. Was that the Minnie Mouse campaign? Okay. She has served on the boards of Temple Israel and Facing History and Ourselves, as well as our own St. Mary's Alumni Board. And she just took a semester to travel in South Africa with her husband and her 2 children. Clearly, Meggan feels right at home in the school world, and I'm sure she has some wonderful stories to share with us. So please help me welcome from the class of 1998, Meggan Wurzburg Kiel.
Well, thank you so much, Erin. And funny story, that was a nightgown that had Snoopy on it. And when I was pregnant with my daughter Sadie, and I would wear it, Snoopy would be on my belly. It was really big when she gave it to me, really big. And so we didn't know if we were having a girl or a boy, so we didn't have a name, so we called her Snoopy until she was born because of your nightshirt. So very good memories, but wow, looking out at y'all brings back so many memories. I'm sure every alum says that, but it's just, I have goosebumps right now thinking about, I was calculating it was 26 years ago that I was in the 5th grade in those seats, and then moving all the way up here to 1998, our senior year, and then graduating right here. So a running joke among my classmates is that I have just been executing my well thought out plan for my life since my senior year 19 years ago. Let me explain. I'm going to show you a picture. So on page 207 in the senior section of the 1998 Carillon is this picture. I think that the seniors still do this. You get to pick out a casual picture of yourself, and then your classmates vote on what they think your future occupation will be and what they think your senior superlative is. So as you can see, I wisely chose a picture of me with my high school boyfriend. Mrs. Quinn, my beloved French teacher of blessed memory, pulled a classmate of mine and me aside who had both chosen to pick a picture of ourselves with our boyfriends. And she said, "Are you sure that that's what you want to do, that that's how you want to represent yourself? You know, you might look back with this with regret," but we both did not heed her advice. And we, in the yearbook, our pictures are with our high school boyfriends. Then you can see below that my classmates, in a somewhat joking way, voted that my future occupation would be a college counselor because I had so much fun inserting myself into all of their college planning and college essays and helping them write and meet deadlines and rephrasing how they would say all of their activities. I just really enjoyed it, so they said that kind of jokingly. Well, fast forward to now. I've been married to that guy in the photo for over 13 years now, and guess what? I became a college counselor. So maybe my talk could be about crafting a plan, sticking to it so that you will achieve your goals, but that is not, I believe, the story to tell. For me, there was a comfortable, natural path to where I am today, but that is not always the path that I chose. What I'm here to talk about with you today is making intentional choices that force yourself off of the easier path. Intentionally choosing to put yourself in unfamiliar contexts with people who are not of similar background, where you might be an outsider. Because I believe that when you do this, you are allowing yourself to grow in ways that you never could have anticipated. So one example of that in my life is that after working at Rhodes College as an assistant director of admissions there, I took the path that many college representatives take. When you're working for a college, you're traveling all the time. It's a grueling travel schedule, and many college reps decide to take that expertise and go to work as a high school college counselor. However, while my colleagues at Rhodes are now at Hutchinson and St. George's and many independent schools in the Southeast as their college counselors, I chose a setting that was less familiar and that forced me out of my initial comfort zone. I chose to work as a college counselor for students in the Memphis City schools through a nonprofit called the Memphis Prep Program. I drove around to parts of the city to which I had never been, working with bright high schoolers across Memphis who had no access to college counselors in their schools. I was certainly an outsider, and at first I wondered how the students and the parents would perceive me. Would we relate? Would we be able to form a trusting relationship even though we were of different races, different backgrounds, different education levels, different life experience, different socioeconomic status? I drove to a dilapidated apartment building at the corner of Chelsea and Manassas to work with Antonio, who is now a graduate of Brown University. I drove more north than I knew our city's borders ever went, to Raleigh Egypt High School, to work with Bianca and Shantario, who are now graduates of Smith College and Wake Forest University, respectively. I drove to Douglas High School and Craigmont High School, in areas of town I had never been in, to work with Danielle and Maria, who are both now graduates of Wellesley College. There are more students and more remote locations across the city that is much bigger than you think it is to list here. But I can tell you that the answer to my question of acceptance and being able to form trusting relationships was a resounding yes. I learned that just because a neighborhood doesn't look like the ones that I am used to, and that the people there are in no way lesser. Their situation might be, but they are not. Even though others feared for my safety, as I was a young woman driving alone a lot of times at night into these students' neighborhoods and into their homes, I learned that if you show respect instead of fear, you will, much more often than not, get respect in return. After my time at Memphis Prep, I was hired by the Soulsville Charter School in South Memphis by Dr. Stakem. This time, it was farther south than I had ever been in Memphis, and I was helping to develop their college counseling program. Now, Soulsville is located in the zip code 38106, which is one of the poorest zip codes in our city. And what you need to know about our country is that if you live in a wealthy zip code, which often includes a high number of college graduates, the likelihood that you will go to a good high school, graduate from high school and go to college is extremely high. On the flip side, students who live in a poor zip code where very few adults have a college degree, you have a much, much lower likelihood to graduate from high school, to have a good high school to go to, and to go to college. So with that data in mind, I started at Soulsville with the first graduating class when they were in the 11th grade. And I was there to see all 5 of its graduating classes so far have 100% graduation rates and acceptance rates into 4-year colleges. something that is unprecedented in that area of our city, and I know that that will continue. Every day I would drive from my home in Midtown, where there are well-tended yards and large homes 10 minutes south to a world away, homes that were boarded up, trash littered by the side of the road, stray dogs wandering around, to students who were determined not to let their destiny be determined by where they grew up. So by choosing to be a college counselor in these two environments was an intentional choice that I made to put myself literally, physically outside of my comfort zone into a Memphis where very few of those students ever travel along Poplar Avenue or Union Avenue, which are the centers of our daily lives. Then, in the spring of last year, my husband and I found out that we had the opportunity to take the lives of the two of us, but also the lives of our two children, out of our comfort zone by spending a semester in South Africa. When we found out, it was a combination of excitement and terror. Our lives were in a good, predictable rhythm. With both kids in school, my husband in a job he loved, my passion at Soulsville continuing, why would we want to disrupt all that to fly to South Africa and live in the complete unknown? You know, you tell yourself when a really, really cool opportunity comes about in my life that I'm definitely going to take it. And that's what I had told myself until the really, really, really cool yet scary opportunity came, and you begin to learn that you have a lot of doubt and a lot of fear. So that doubt and fear took over for a while for us, and there were times that it just seemed like it would be too hard. Where would we live? There were 11 official languages spoken in South Africa. Would we be able to communicate with anybody there? Would we be unsafe? People in the United States were telling us and our parents and that it would be very unsafe, that we should be scared, that we probably should think twice. What would we eat on a daily basis? Would we figure out how to get around our city and the country? Were we crazy to pull our kids out of school for a semester and take them to a place where we had no idea how we were going to live? Luckily, my husband and I listened to the voices in our heads and in our hearts that told us to go for it, that we would regret it if we didn't try. So we made the leap. My husband flew over a couple weeks ahead of us to try to find out where we might live and to learn what it would take for us to acclimate to this new environment. We went knowing only the city in which we would live and were left to figure out the rest on our own. The first night we were there was a planned power outage. It was planned for our city. We didn't know about it. Everyone else was prepared with, lights and generators and things like that if they had access to that. For us, the lights went out, and it was very, very cold. This is a picture of our space heater. We're all in our coats, and we're reading with little book lights because we were like, what else can we do? We can just sit here and get by the space heater. So at that moment, I remember thinking, first of all, who knew it was so cold in South Africa? That was the first thought that went through my head. It was freezing. It was July, okay? But Southern Hemisphere, opposite seasons. And also, at this point, looking at my two children thinking, oh my gosh, are we gonna make it? Have we made a huge decision? We didn't know when the power was gonna go back on. We found out it's a regular thing that happens, that they have to turn off the power, and we rolled with it. So the answer is that we made it. We're here. And when December came and we were supposed to go home, we didn't want to leave. We had grown so much, both as individuals and as a family. We had survived living in a place where before we left, people in Memphis warned us that we might not be safe. And if we had heeded these warnings, we would never have had some of these experiences. So here's the point that I get to incorporate all our cool photos. These are probably familiar to a lot of the fifth graders who followed Sadie's blog, so y'all get to see them again, but you've already seen them. So I'll just show you quickly a few. So this is a scene right out of The Lion King that is a real scene on a safari in South Africa with the giraffes and the elephants. You can see the second elephant is a baby. It's very cute. This was an elephant right outside of our car window. again, this is in a in a national park. This is not just alongside the road, but in the national parks. Instead of bears, you see elephants. This is outside of the house that we rented. There were zebras in the yard instead of horses like we have here. There are zebras. Here's a rhino and her baby. This is Sadie and Ben with a giraffe near our home, actually, who they named Jack, who this, I think, was right before Sadie got a little too close and got kicked by Jack. Low parenting moment. Let's see. There are Sadie and Ben with some African penguins. This is a monkey that stole bananas off of our kitchen counter and then climbed out through the window. This is a baboon leaping at my face while I took the picture, and Sadie, you can see inside the car, is laughing her head off at me. Then we hiked some unbelievable hikes to the tip of the continent of Africa. That's the guy that was also in my senior yearbook. This is the tip of the continent of Africa where you can climb and see the southwest tip. We also saw some immense poverty when we were there and got to get to know some people who lived in the townships and really develop relationships there. There's Ben. We stayed in some really cool places that you could only stay in when you were in Africa that were just unbelievably rich in their what they brought to us culturally. So I'll go back to that one. So we had some pretty cool experiences, but our time there wasn't just this highlight reel. Yes, we did these cool things that you might do if you go on a trip to South Africa on a vacation or a safari, but we also had days and weeks where we just lived. We lived our normal lives, and we had to explain this to our kids before, like, we're gonna have to go to the grocery store, and we're gonna have to cook meals, and we're gonna have to do school and the daily things that we do. So these are the highlights, but living was where it was putting ourselves in a very uncomfortable situation. So we lived in a different environment where we were clearly outsiders. So we went to this cultural village called Lyttle. And while we were there, South Africa has a very troubled history with mining, and there were some helmets that had different quotes. And in Lyttle, I saw this helmet, and we took a picture because it really resonated with us at the time. And the helmet, if you can't read it, says, "Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors." What this quotation means to me is that if you only sail in calm waters, you are still a sailor, but you are never going to reach your potential. If you put yourself in challenging situations where you feel you are not yet capable of excelling, like those scary, unknown, choppy waters, then you will work much harder to become skilled in that environment. The waters where I worked in North and South Memphis and lived in South Africa were certainly scary, unknown, and choppy at first. They are places that are labeled unsafe or dangerous. People avoid them because the people there are of a different background. And truth be told, these places might be unsafe, especially if you approach them with the armor on and block yourself from any potential harm, then you are more likely to be susceptible to these dangers. But what I have found is that if you engage in those places with the people who call those places home, you will find that this proximity, I'll say the word again, proximity, just being close, proximate on a regular basis to those who are living in very different circumstances, breaks down so many barriers. Just by being there, getting to know each other, and building a consistent relationship will add depths to your own life that you would not have otherwise had. Now in South Memphis and in South Africa, I have many people who are very different from me, with whom I have a deep friendship of mutual respect. I'm no longer fearful of those unknown places, and in fact, I'm extremely, extremely grateful for them. So now that I am back in the relatively smooth waters of Midtown Memphis with the knowledge from these experiences, I know deeply the value of being in a situation where at first I feel like an outsider. I know that I am capable of navigating in unknown rough waters because of the experiences I have had by intentionally putting myself physically in the proximity of unfamiliar and different communities. My hope is that each and every one of you either make an opportunity for yourself or take an opportunity for yourself to work or to learn or to live in a place that at first seems very uncomfortable and where you are an outsider. Maybe you volunteer consistently in an area of Memphis where you've never been to as of today. Maybe you take a summer or a gap year to live and learn somewhere completely different. Maybe down the road you take a job or an internship that puts you in daily contact with people who are from different backgrounds or makes you drive regularly to an unfamiliar part of town. I hope that each of you can become the most skillful sailor that you can possibly be by thrusting yourself out of the smooth seas. Thank you.